Welcome back, folks. Last time we went over this slide, we came to understand that this vikalpa, these waves, the vrittis, the impressions that ride on top of consciousness, which make up the mind, if we are able to still them to a point where they almost cease to exist, it's one of the definitions of a very high supreme kind of samadhi and difficult one to attain. You, for people who are interested, they can look for this word nirvikalpa, and you will. There are some people who claim to have gotten it to that state. Nevertheless, let's move to the next slide. Now, the reason that we went over this is that it is one of the paths, and I will give an allegory and a metaphor that will make this somewhat more clear. But this was one path that a, a seeker can take in order to achieve. We said that the aim of Vedanta was to get rid of ignorance, eliminate the ignorance, where we are in a state of perpetual unrecognition of the real nature of the self. We have lost our ability to understand it, and that is the reason why all are suffering, because then that leads to duality, and the minute there is duality, it leads to suffering. So we went over this, and so let's go to the next slide. So in this slide, what is happening is that from the next slide, where we are actually going to get into the actual, we're going to jump back into Bhagwad Gita. This is all the different background, and the reason for this background, as I said, first of all, to appreciate what's going to come in the next slide, obviously, but there is also another thing, and I will give one more metaphor to quickly get to this point, and then go ahead with this explanation of the slide. So it is like this, that when you are wanting to travel and go to a particular destination, you have your GPS in your car. For those who use it, this is a very nice analogy, and you'll be able to appreciate what is happening here. So you pick a destination point, and then you feed it into your computer, your GPS, and it finds it. This is where you want to go. And then when you say, I want to go to this point, it gives you options. It says you can take a flight to go there. So basically it says, fastest route, quickest route, internal route. It gives 3 or 4 options. And depending on your personal abilities, the nature of travel that you want to do. If it is something real close by, then it doesn't make sense to spend so much and get a flight, because it's the resources that you have are limited. So you want to use your resources to the best of your abilities. So somebody might take a flight. There could be somebody who will choose the option of walking. That's one option. Or you could take a public transport. That is another option. Or you could drive with your own car. So there are all these different options that are there. And so in Bhagwad Gita, the destination we saw in the verse 16, that is the destination that we need to get to. Na sato vidyate bhava, na bhavo vidyate sata, ubayorapi drishtanta, tvanayos tattvadarshibhi. That is kind of the explanation of the definition of the destination that we have to get to. And then after that, different approaches are. So there is the path of the flight, which is the fastest one, but it is the resources that you need for that are quite extraordinary. Not everybody has those kind of resources. So what will be the easiest path? You can take public transportation. So when you take public transportation, you basically don't need to have those kind of resources to spend, nor do you have to like be your, you don't need to be a pilot to fly your own plane. So you don't know how to fly a plane. Same way, if you pick public transport, you don't need to know how to drive the bus or train or whatever you pick. Or you don't even need to bother about the condition of the vehicle, like how much of gas, petrol is there in it. The driver takes care of that. So the path of karma yoga is another path, which is Krishna says that this is an easy path relatively compared to the Jnana Yoga path. So in this path, in Karma Yoga, now this is like, the the fastest path is air. This is probably transportation is a relatively easier path. And then there are, you drive your own car. So there's another path, and we'll get to that when we get to chapter 12. That's when Bhakti Yoga will start. So this Karma Yoga is one more path to get to that same destination. So in this case, we went over this in last couple of sessions before, that this vritti, which is there in our consciousness, this special vritti, which gives rise to the ego. That's why that vritti was called as ahankara, the creator of ego. The one that creates the ego is ahankara. We went over that. So this vritti, it actually, um, we we are not going to go into the details of the doctrine of karma because it will take too long of a time. But I'll just mention the cardinal principles of what constitute it. So this ego, it is it appears to think that it owns some of these actions, some of these vrittis, and it also therefore by association thinks that it is affected by the results of the action that has gotten performed. So you are driving a car, and then if you become one with the car in your mind, if you are the right word is that you the association is so deep that you think of the car and yourself as one. And when I give this example, it will sound ridiculous, but if somebody were to scratch the car or make a dent to the car, your car, somebody else's car, it won't affect you. So if somebody were to scratch or make a dent to your car, then it is virtually as if that scratch was made on your hand, as if you are bleeding, as if you have been hurt, and you cannot shake it off your mind. So that is the result of that karma phala is associated with this ego. And you can see the problem that is there in one work that Shankaracharya has done, Viveka Chodamani. He goes at great length to identify and show what are the different places where this identification or misidentification takes place where the confusion happens that the ego thinks of it as that the thing that it is not. I know that in terms of English language, this sentence might appear convoluted, but you can appreciate the example of the car. You're not the car, but if you think of yourself as the car and something happens to the car, you get hurt. And so Vedanta's mechanism of addressing this problem, there are several parts, but the bottom line is that if you are able to get rid of this ignorance that you are this car, then it just becomes like, it's just somebody else's car gets scratched, dented, it doesn't affect you. So what it means is this vrittis that you see here, they virtually begin to calm down and begin to reduce. So the yogi, he controls his mind. The example that we saw here, the yogi, this person who is pursuing this path is a yogi, has different definitions of it. But here he takes extreme effort. He conducts austerities to control his mind. He understands the mind, and every day he practices, puts a lot of effort, and that's how he's reduced these vrittis down. So now the aim of the recognition that he is not different to the consciousness is easy for him, and he'll be able to get to it. Same thing over here. Without this, doing these austerities, the yogic practices, if one were to become detached from this, it's easier said than done, but it is a solution. Then these waves, they automatically will, they may be there, but they don't affect you that much, and you will be able to achieve the same result. So you may not recognize, or you may not see the difference here, but let me go back a few slides. And this was deliberate. If you look at this slide, the green portion here compared to the rest of the vrittis is deliberately I have shown as a thick line here as opposed to these other lines, because this is the vritti of the ahankar. So it's a special kind of vritti. And if you come to this point, when you perform karma yoga, when you are able to understand and practice karma yoga, this vritti of ego, it becomes, or you are able to reduce it down to the level of a general vritti. So it is a mechanism of getting the actor, the executor of the action, the agent of the action, to be able to dissociate himself from the ownership of these results of the karma. It's a difficult sentence when I put it like that, but essentially it is the treatment of this vritti so it can be unattached or dissociated from the result. And how that happens, so we will see one in the couple of verses later. So Sri Krishna, in this path of karma yoga, he claims, he suggests that this path is far easier than the path of the yogi, where you're using your strength of the mind to get to this state. So this reduction of this ego down to another vritti. So then it is like, now something happens in your life. You are you are looking at life through such a lens that the things that take place in your life that used to have a very severe impact on your life, they become trivial, virtually trivial. There is another thing that Shankara in one of his works, uh, he goes through where one example is a very common example given, and so this I'm in two minds if I need to go through it, it will take too much of time, but I'll go through it real quickly. So this there is a or I will cut down the example to a very small example. So as a child, you were very mm, fascinated by certain toys, and they were the whole world. Only if you could get this toy, some toy, it meant the whole world to you, or marbles or a ball, something like that. And you did not get it, and you were miserable, and you were crying through the whole evening and night until your dad went and got that thing for you, and then you were happy. So this the vritti here is the ownership of this particular toy. It's the ripple, the vritti that is created in the consciousness had affected you dramatically. Now this same vritti, you as a child, you went to this toy shop, you saw this toy, and then all these things happened. Now this same event, you're a grown-up man and you have a child, and then you go to this shop and you see it. What happens? Nothing happens. Now you may not even, your child might guess, maybe nowadays these toys also are changing as generations change, but if you go back, you may not even want to go back to that toy shop. But let's say if you do go, it it hardly seems to matter if that toy is there or not there, you buy it or not. Your child might clamor for it, and you might say, okay, how much is it? It is $10, and you pay and give it to him. It's whether you are able to buy it or not. If let's say it says the shopkeeper says it's out of stock, your son who wants it, he will get very disturbed. But you will not. Yeah, because now you are at a different. Now there are different things which, if you don't get, make you disturbed. So this karma yoga is graduating you at such a level that these vrittis are no longer that important. It's a change in attitude of your life where your goal is very different. These things don't seem to matter to you. They not only seem is word not to be taken lightly. Like it's not that it's maybe we don't use the word seem. They should not affect us at all. So this reduction of this ahankara into just another type of vritti is one of the goals of karma yoga. And the karma yoga also is the change of this attitude towards life. Also, it diminishes this turbulence of vrittis that are there in our mind, thereby allowing us a chance to recognize the true nature of our true nature, or the true nature of consciousness. Now that is a whole different topic, and it's complicated, but for the sake of this discussion, to know your own nature or to know consciousness is one and the same thing. Let's keep it like that. There is a whole lot of discussion. It's a key topic for Vedanta, but we are not getting into that. Okay, so now that we have all this background, let's look at the verse. So let me quickly just recap this one slide. So we had got these different vrittis, and we said that we have classified these vrittis as sattva, rajas, and tamas, and they are basically vrittis that help you go toward, but they are still vrittis. You will need to eliminate that at some point. The sattva is going to take you towards your goal. Rajas is kind of neutral, but it also takes you away. Tamas definitely takes you away. So these categorization of vrittis, but nevertheless vrittis. Basically, they are still vrittis. You take 100 of them and you say it is 33, 33, 33, or you say, no, it is 50, 20, 30, or whatever is the breakup, the kind of person you are. It's still, the vrittis are there. So now if we look at this shloka that we have, the first shloka number 45. Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna Nirdvanvo Nityasattvasthaha Niryogakshema Atmavan. So here now that we have gone through all the background here, is Sri Krishna saying that there this mind is made up of these three gunas. Traigunya Vishaya Veda. On this, the Veda is to know, or in Vedas it has been described that this mind is made up of these three gunas, and your job or our job or the job of a seeker is to transcend this. Nistra gunya is to transcend these three modes. Bhava Arjuna, O Arjuna, be that person who transcends these three modes. So now when we say this, you can understand this one line over here. That is why we had to go through all this background. It really means that you take these three these vrittis, these three gunas, and then you come to this point. And so you come to this point. So basically, when you reduce your three vrittis, the vrittis, then it's regardless of whether it is sattva, rajas, or tamas, you are able to get to this state. Okay, so Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna Nirtvanvo Nitya Sattvastha Niryogakshema Atmavan. So the second line, Nirdvandva, the minute the vritti descends down from this level, top level of, actually from the Advaita, I should say, then you get this duality. So we saw this as well, that if you remember the previous slides, we saw the three gunas. Excuse me. So we saw that these three gunas were there, and then in the next slide we went over these dualities that are there. They are results of this. Categorize the effect of karma, the dual effects that are there, pain and pleasure, good and evil, and all kinds of opposite that are there. Nirdvandva. So dvandva is duality. Nirdvandva is without duality. Nitya sattvastha. Nitya is eternal. Sattva is, although this word is used here, it means the state of consciousness. It doesn't mean that sattvic vritti. It means truth. Sattva is a word that is it has depending on the context, it gets used in multiple ways. Nitya sattvastha nirayogakshema. Yogakshema is the it's another form of the duality where we says the ideas of um, gain, yoga kshema, that is profiting or success, and then the result of the a particular action is going to result in something good or something bad. So the result, that result, be free from those ideas. It's easier said than done, but okay. Niryoga kshema atmana at atmavan त्रैगुण्य विषया वेदाः निस्त्रैगुण्यो भवार्जुन निर्द्वन्द्वो नित्यसत्त्वस्थः निर्योगक्षेम आत्मवान्. So be established in the self. This word, be established in the self, now you can relate to what we were showing earlier, that this means that the elimination of these vrittis by some means. You may not be able to erase it off, but by detaching yourself them, it actually tantamounts to that eraser, and you get established in the self. That's the crux of this verse. Okay, let's go to the next verse. Yavan artha yavan artha udapane sarvata samplutodake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanatah. This okay, let's go to it. Yavan artha udapane. So uda is water. So what, this is a metaphor where he's saying that just like the waters in a well, stream, river, some limited quantities of water. Yavan artha udapane sarvata samplutodake. It is like you are taking water, rivers, and they empty. These rivers empty in the ocean, but you don't. If you have got a small vessel, a small cup, and then you got a jug of water, and you pour the jug of water in this small vessel, then it will overflow, right? You can see the water when you put it there, it overflows. But if you pour it in a well or a lake, then this water that you pour it will not make any difference. You will not notice any difference. So if you see the rivers, they mighty big rivers, they empty themselves into the ocean, and you don't see the ocean swell up because constantly this river is pouring into the ocean, and it continues to stay. It is the magnitude or the expanse, the vastness of the ocean is so much that these waters that are coming in, they don't affect it. So similar to that, Tawan, similar to that, the uh, the knower of Brahman, Yavan Artha Udapane Sarvata Samplutodake, just like this water emptying themselves into this large body of water. Tavan Sarveshu Vedeshu Brahmanasya Vijanatah. So the knower of Brahman is like this compared to the knowledge of the Vedas, which is the Vedic literature, bookish knowledge. Compared to that of the realized soul, his state of mind, his the knowledge that he has got, it is incomparable to this reading of the Shruti, the text and all that, or however much you might know about the nature of this Brahman. For somebody who has realized, so there is a very big difference between Vedanta and other other religious uh, thinking or processes. This is a way of life. It is a very, very practical thing, and they ask you to experience it. So it's you you might have all the Upanishads and the Bhagwad Gita by heart. So basically, it's a difference between the academic and scholarly pursuit versus experiential pursuit. So that's the difference they're calling out here. So this knower of Brahman is his state is incomparable to just the bookish knowledge. So it is, for example, you this couple of ways that we can look at is there is a person who is studying milk, and has he has got research papers. He has done a research himself on milk, that it is a white substance and that it is a liquid and it takes on this shape, and it is made up of these kind of molecules, and this is the kind of attraction, and he can keep doing research till the end of time. He'll keep coming up with new things that is doesn't know about it. What is this bond? What is the charge on this? What is the structure of this? It is a lattice structure, and one can keep studying and studying and studying. And then there is this other person who has taken this milk in this glass, in a glass, and he goes and he drinks it, and he tastes it, and he feels it, he experiences it, and he digests it, and it gives him energy. To this person, it doesn't matter if he has read all this chemistry about milk or not, or however much somebody else has studied. It just doesn't. They're like two worlds apart. So however much one might study the qualities of milk, it is different. It is not comparable to this person who has been able to procure and drink milk. This person who has understood, has realized his real true nature, that person, his knowledge is incomparable and inexhaustible to compared to the bookish knowledge of the Veda or even Vedanta for that matter. Okay, next verse. So this is one thing that it's a corollary to. I couldn't finish this slide, but I'll quickly explain this. So what happens is that there is a chance of a misconception that one has to basically uh, study, devote oneself mentally to the removal of different things, and then you reach to a point. It's like you have got a piece of wood or something, and then you want to understand what is made up of. So you analyze it, and then there's molecules in it, and you use a microscope or something, and then you go inside it, and there are atoms and electrons, and you get to the last point. This is how this main fabric, this main thing that makes up this wood is made up of. It's not meant that you have to open up all these things and then there it lies at the bottom. It makes up this whole thing. The wood is nothing but that element, that core element which imparts existence to this wood. It's not like you are negating all the upper layers of wood, and then you go to this point and say, oh, this is the thing. It is everything, right from that small dot to this wood. It fills through and through. That's the meaning of the previous verse, and that is what I was trying to do here. But anyhow, okay. Now this is the verse. This is the most popular work that is from the Bhagwad Gita that one will find being uh, mentioned in so many books by so many people and all that. There's so many interpretations of this, and we have been looking at all the background, and we know uh, at least what the perspective that we are taking, where we know that this is a exercise, a practice in the attitude which will help us minimize the effect on this agent of action, the karta. And so this detachment is there, which will allow us to become almost less affected or not affected by the outcome of the actions that we take. So we saw what all this is. So that all these vrittis are there, and we went through all that. So this verse, the most popular, I won't say the most important, the most popular verse from the Bhagavad Gita. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturбhuः ma te sangostva karmani. So yeah, karmanyevadhikaraste. Adhikar, adhikar is the right. Karma is our actions. So we have the right. We have kind of the control to perform an action. We can perform an action. Karmanyevadhikaraste. Ma is not. Ma phaleshu kadachana. Phala is this word. Phala is fruit. Ma phaleshu kadachana. So we are never in control of the result of a karma. And this word result is we went over this also, is a deliberately used word. It's a key word because the result, the fruit of karma, there are, we went over this, there's drashtapal and adrashtapal, and the result of a karma can take place right now, or it can take place later, or it can take place in future life. And the things that we are experiencing in this life are the can be some of the results of the karma that we have performed in the past life. You don't have to believe this in terms of the past life and future life, but definitely you can relate to the cause and effect that karma is talking about. So karmanye vadhikaraste, we have control, or we can uh, decide or execute or perform a karma, but we have no control over the result of the fruit of the action that we perform. You take an arrow in a bow and you let go, and once you let go, then that's it. You have no more control. Then the arrow is going to go and it will strike something. You might have pointed this arrow towards a fruit, and something else might come in the middle, and it might hit that, and who knows. It's a very complicated situation, and there's lots of discussion around this. We don't want to get into that. This is again part of what we said earlier about trying to understand the construction of milk and the chemical composition and this and that. Our target should be to procure the milk and drink the milk, not try and analyze the milk. That's so this too much analysis of karma is like that. Okay. So karmanyevadhikars, they map. If I keep forgetting to use the mouse, but for those who follow Sanskrit or Devanagari, karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana Ma karma phala he turbhu mate sangostva karmani. So this we the first part we saw, and the when ma karma phala, the result karma phala is the result of action. Hetu causes ma karma phala hetur bhu become ma te sangosta karmani. So this akarma means that you karma is to perform actions. Akarma is to to not perform. So this is this there's in a later chapter we'll see. So this uh, notion of the being or performing a karma and then having to um, what the word that gets used is having to bhoga, is to enjoy. Now this word enjoy doesn't mean enjoy all the time. So you if it's a good thing you enjoy, if it's a bad thing you suffer. But the word that just so you enjoy the fruits of your actions. So the fruit doesn't have to be sweet. It can be good or bad. And so now that we know that the this is a problem, that if we perform an action, the there's bound to be a fruit. And so this is a problem. So let's not perform any action. So he's saying, that that also is not possible, or it cannot be done, or it doesn't happen. So this the the key things to take away is that you can only perform action, and you don't have control over the results of the action, and you cannot even say that I will not perform any actions. You will have to perform some actions. Let me um, let me just look at the time. So this notion of the action and its results, the ownership of one, and the not being able to control the other, this whole thing, this whole uh, components, if you put all them together, it sounds complicated, and it is complicated to a certain extent. The equation that comes out of it, when we try to solve it, Krishna's thing is that in order to solve this riddle, we need to be unattached to the result of the action. Like I said, this is easier said than done, because you practically speaking, how do unless there is some motivation, how do you why would you perform an action? So you do perform an action. So this is more of the attitude where you are able to have a different, far higher goal in life than the actions that get performed by you in your day-to-day life, including with your near and dear ones. And so when you have this higher target in mind, your goal, everything else is of less consequence. Some of them become of no consequence. Some of them that had high consequence, they come down, they become less consequence. That automatically happens. So you direct yourself to this higher goal. There is a popular saying in our part of India where the more you go towards the east, the more you leave behind the west. So it is, this takes place, this phenomenon, it takes place. Okay, so let me move to the next verse. Uh, I'm almost there today at the end of this time. I will just recite this and we will Look at this verse next time. Yogastat kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya. Let me use the mouse. I keep forgetting this. Yogastat kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya. Siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Dhananjaya is Arjun. Okay, we will conclude today's session and then we will take up this thing next time. Thanks for listening, and then we'll see you next time. Bye.